brought to you by the Computer Society, Tech Entrepreneur SIG, ACE, as well as Stream Global. We have run this every month, second Wednesday of the month, and we have been doing this for 4 years. Although the first 2 years of it, we were running it every Wednesday, right? So we have actually more than 100 videos up on our site, and just search SCS TecHour on the SCS website or YouTube. You'll be able to find something that is interesting to you. In this session, today, the topic is actually startup resilience, right? I want to cover this topic because a lot of startup is going through a lot of stress and a lot of challenges and a lot of changes, right, in this post-COVID season, if you might call it, right? So I thought it may be a good opportunity for us to actually hear topics that's close to many of our technopreneurs' heart, right, on startup resilience. And I'm really very lucky to have Adrian as well as Jade as speaker today. Maybe what I'll do is that I will do a short introduction of each individual, and perhaps they could actually tell a little bit about their stories and their war stories before we go on to a conversation on this topic of startup resilience. First, we have Jade Napalm. Jade is actually the founder and CEO of Sciante, right? Latin for science, as he told me earlier, right? Jade has played a leading role in IT industry for almost, if not more than 3 decades, right? By catering to the needs of customers within the financial services, insurance, telecommunications, and government sector, right? Running projects and managing function and business operations in Southeast Asia. Interestingly, Jade founded the organization after spending some time in the corporate world. Maybe Jade, you want to share with us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Chuck. In fact, I would just like to add in this context that Sciante is a hybrid organization with a mission of delighted clients and community. And what it means is that the significant percentage of our profit goes back to community as well as social innovations.
Wow.
And just to give an example, during circuit breaker, our employees were still busy in raising funds for migrant workers as well as COVID-19 test kits, working with the National Health Group. And it is very important for us to be resilient and keeping the distractions away. And our mission and our purpose has helped us a lot in this context and keeps us very resilient. Just to give you a background of what we do, our focus primarily is in business technology consulting in banking and insurance industry, and that is our largest part of the business. We have a presence in United States, Malaysia, as well as in India, Singapore being a headquarter. We have been humbled with over 30 awards during last 13 years, and we have been growing with a compound annual growth rate of 42%. So this is just to give you some background of Sciante.
How about yourself, Jade?
Yeah, I've been in technology industry for last 30 years, and I was the managing director of Paro Systems Corporation for Asia Pacific. I left in 2007 as I saw huge opportunities in the marketplace, and I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I felt that that was the right time. Either I could do at that time or I could not have done it. So I chose to jump and start Sciante organization in 2007. And in this context, if I started in 2007 and subprime crisis happened in mid-2007. And our primary focus was in banking industry only. And that was the time when the stocks of most of the banks dropped by 80 to 90%. I still remember that we were not sure whether Citibank will open next day or not. That was the kind of situation we were in. And those were our client focus. So that was the toughest time of Sciante when I just jumped in. I left my job as a managing director. I started Sciante. And suddenly subprime crisis and then Lehman Brothers collapse, and we had to still survive, and that was the history. So perhaps I will give more information as we proceed. But but I really enjoyed my last 13 years, and I still continue to enjoy
Yeah, that's the
the
reason
journey.
why Jade, I got you on board to talk about resilience, you know.
I'll be happy to add more information about that.
The other speaker is actually Mr. Adrian Chai. He's the GM of Media Freaks group of companies. The entire group is a very interesting group. They are an award-winning group for new tech as well as a new media company focusing on digital marketing, e-commerce, and animation service. When I first knew Adrian, Adrian was actually helping out in the student chapter, if I'm not mistaken, as a student, right? And that's how long I've known Adrian since then. And Adrian, if I'm not mistaken, you guys were probably the first few batch of student chapter volunteers, if I'm not mistaken, or committee members. And I think first batch, oh, wow, right? And I think the interesting thing I found about Adrian was that he was actually running a really interesting animation company at that time, and he certainly has the company certainly has transformed. So maybe you can tell us a little bit, Adrian.
Sure. So thanks for having me here. I don't have 3 decades of experience under my belt like Jade. Mine only 1.5 decade. Yeah. So yeah. So like what Chuck mentioned, I think I belong more to the reckless type. So I think right after graduation, I thought that I just wanted to give it a shot, taking on the nothing to lose mentality. So Media Freaks was very much my first job and my first company. Yeah. And like how Chuck mentioned, I think it has evolved a lot. I mean, we started as a 3D animation studio. At that time, it's something new, refreshing in the market and all that. But I think along the way, we pivot and we evolve. So we are still doing 3D animation. In fact, that DNA has served us very well. But today, we very much evolve into like a tech new media company, and we do a lot more than just animation. In fact, I think more than 50% of revenue now is in the digital marketing space, actually. Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I'm going back to Jade, right? Jade, you literally have seen tough times when you kick off the organization. And I think Adrian, over the last decade and a half or so, that there also has been up and downs, right? Okay. What do you think, these tough times are like for you guys when you guys were running your companies? Maybe Jade, you can start first.
Yeah, for me, as you know, the moment I started and the subprime crisis and financial crisis happened, and it was really the toughest time. In fact, if I compare my today's COVID-19 situation versus a situation of financial crisis for Siante, I think the financial crisis was the biggest, toughest times we ever had, because we were in a survival mode, and the complete planning, our business model, everything was like somebody pulls the carpet underneath you. That's the kind of situation I was in, actually. So I had to really go back to the drawing board and relook at the business model, relook at how the customer behavior and the expectations have changed, what value we can bring it to the customer in a new environment, as well as does it make sense for us to continue to focus on the same industry which we had initially planned. So I had to relook at everything, and eventually we tweaked our business model. We changed our industry focus from banking industry to insurance industry at that point of time. And today, we almost all large insurance companies are our customers. Almost all are our customers. And why it is the case? Because that day when we decided to focus on insurance instead of banks. So the situation which was very bad, which was the toughest for us, it became an opportunity and which made us survive till today.
I guess in adversity, right, for most of us who are in business, actually tend to focus a lot, and the focus becomes sharper, I guess, And as you rightly said, when you decided to focus on slightly different in the adjacent industry, your focus was actually making sure it works, right, in the right industry. Adrian, how about yourself? I mean, I remember you telling me at that time, right, you were doing fantastically well from the perspective that, you were doing a lot of work for Discovery Channel, National Geographic, all the animations. I remember you mentioned, is it 101 Taiwan or something like that, right? You
Taipei
did.
101, yeah.
Taipei 101, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. So actually before COVID-19, interestingly that Jade brought up the subprime mortgage, the financial crisis. Actually before COVID-19, right, if you ask me over the last 15 years, right, I think the biggest challenge I faced was during the subprime mortgage as well. Actually, we were also on survival mode. Actually, that was really where everything starts to dry up and all that. So it was very, very stressful. I thought I would make it, yeah, that kind of thing. Then we evolved into digital marketing and all that. But I think, if the question here is this COVID-19 19 actually a bigger challenge than subprime mortgage? To be honest, at this stage, I'm feeling that the subprime one was actually the COVID-19 is better. But I'm actually very clear about one thing. I think many of us, at least for me, right, I think that now whatever we're feeling, the difficulties is not the real one yet. I think the government, all the subsidies and the assistance has really helped to give us some time to embrace the real one. I think a lot of all these subsidies and grant will be drying up by next month. I think the last quarter of this year will be the real test. So like in digital marketing space, we are serving about 20 industry, right? So many of them are also being cushioned by all these grant, the job support schemes and things like that. And all will run out by next month. I think we are embracing, preparing ourselves and really try to put everything in place to face the real one, which is actually in the last quarter of this year. But that's what's in my head now. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, guys, if you guys have any question as you come along, just please use the Q&A button at the bottom, and I will pick up any questions as I have conversation with the two gentlemen. Basically, no profanities, please. So just ask your questions, and I will try to answer them. Just following on the conversation, right? You guys both mentioned that the subprime was bad, right? And I think you guys are right from the perspective that until now, right, we are still it's still fairly contained, right? From the perspective that there are a lot of government help, visibly, there are a lot more grants and stuff available to all of us, right? Do you think that, this crisis will drive you guys to change or pivot because of COVID? Do you guys got that feel, given your experience with subprime and maybe even before that, we have the dot-com boom, bust, 9/11 and things like that, right? Do you feel that, there are a lot, there are going to be it's going to turn for worse, right? Would that drive a lot of changes? Would that drive, a lot of pivots by startup? What are your thoughts on that?
I think my experience during last 13 years, starting an organization, group of companies, expanding overseas, and continue to grow, has taught me that change is always there. And whatever you plan, however good you are in your planning, things can always change. So financial crisis was only one situation, and it was very tough for us because we were in survival mode. But the change never stopped after that. And from I can give you a few examples, right? Even let's say last few years, being in services industry, we have seen some government policies being changed on immigration. And that creates a kind of a constraint in talents side. But then it is a slow change, but it has been a constraint, and we have to adapt to that change continuously. And we have done it in last few years. So the change is always there, and we have to continue to adapt to the changes. Now, the changes mostly are coming from various directions. Most of the changes, what we have seen, is coming from the customer side. Whether it's a customer needs or their behavior, or sometimes there are some mergers and acquisitions take place and their direction changes, and therefore we directly get impacted. And especially if the customer is a large customer of ours, and if there is a change in the direction, our significant revenue gets affected. So we have to quickly see how we can change, how we can adapt to that change. The second area, which is regulatory changes. Being in financial services industry, including insurance, it is governed by MAS. So any changes if MAS comes with, whether it's anti-money laundering or any other areas, we directly get impacted. Of course, we get positively impacted because any change means customers are giving us more business. So that's the positive impact of it. But then the policy like immigration, some negative impact because of being in professional services. Then the technology disruption also has been continuous in last 10 years. Actually, it has been mind-boggling. It has been very, very discomforting because by the time we are able to master in certain areas and suddenly the technology changes, some new technologies come in and we continue to be disrupted. And being in services industry, we have to have the skill set for the technology set, which customers are demanding. And if we are not able to train our people quickly, then we are not able to serve our customers. So if you see that being an entrepreneur, we have to accept the fact that that's the life. We have to change. We have to adapt. There is no other way, right? We have to continue to evolve ourselves. We have to continue to reinvent ourselves. So to be very honest, if you ask me, it's become a part of us to deal with the changes.
I guess
it has been continuous.
Yeah, I guess, you're absolutely right, Jade. Whether you are in a corporate or you're an entrepreneur, right, the growth mindset is actually very important, right? The ability to see growth in your business, whether you're an entrepreneur or not. And the only consistent thing is change. Now, we've got a question, right, from Howie, right? And his question was, what do you think are the challenges that prevent the necessary pivots or necessary changes? Adrian, why don't you start with that first, and I'll get back to Jade, on this question.
Yeah.
What do you think are the challenges?
I think, so the challenges to pivot, right? I think my process of thinking about pivot is like this. So why should we pivot, right? A lot of time when we pivot is, I think many entrepreneurs feel that, oh, we pivot because we want to survive or we want to sustain and all that. I try not to think this way because previously I think this way. This is how I thought. And I realized that in the last few years, right, every time we pivot, the first question that comes to my head is, how can we pivot such that we can improve or enhance our value proposition to our customers? I started to think this way. And I realized that when I try to think on the side of our customers, right, we start to get more creative and usually the outcome is better. So we started to actually pivot with that motivation. And then, so it's actually like a triangle in my company, right? We pivot, first of all, is to enhance the value proposition for our customer. Then the second thing I need to ensure is, okay, now we pivot. Obviously, our competency may be affected, right? So the challenges start to come at the second tier. Like, okay, yeah, we can pivot to enhance our services this way, but can my team cope with that? Do we have the competency and all that? So I need to immediately ensure that we can upskill ourselves and become very good at that as well. Then immediately it goes to the third tier, which is, okay, now my team is willing to pivot, but are they happy doing it now? If I ask a graphic designer to become a 3D animator, will she still be as passionate as before? I think if the team is no longer happy doing that, we won't be able to strive as well. So as I go down these 3 tiers of flow, right, I realize that each of it has its own challenges. First is how to enhance the value proposition for the customer. Second is, can we upskill ourselves to match that new value proposition? And third, will we be happy doing it or passionate doing it? So I see the challenges this way, which is what I'm experiencing now actually. Yeah, but in a happier way, in a happy way so far. Yeah. Yeah, that's my answer.
How about you, Jade? What do you see are the challenges?
Yeah, I think we have many challenges, but then we felt that if we focus on challenge by challenge, we may not be able to really achieve what we want to achieve because we always will be in a reactive mode. Because most of the time the changes happen and we have to react at times, and those are the challenges. So I came out with a methodology, very simple one, and I train all our employees, which is learning agility. So instead of looking at the challenge and trying to solve it, we are trying to prepare everyone how to how to use a methodology called learning agility so that any change they see, they are able to use that methodology to learn from it quickly and adopt quickly and deliver what is expected in that environment. So take example, if you have a situation A, which we have never faced before, right? It can be a very new situation. If our employees are able to take it confidently, go for it, learn from it, fine tune their skills and deliver. Tomorrow situation B comes in because this environment has changed. So they should be prepared to go for it, again, learn in a new situation, adopt, deliver. Then situation C. And therefore, this iterative process for every situation is they are prepared to handle it. So I'm looking at it in a different way and trying to solve this problem through learning agility.
That's interesting. And both you brought up, I think a side, in different side of the same coin. I think a lot of one of the biggest challenge I hear so far is really old habits, right? We used to do such thing, therefore, we shouldn't change. We have old skills, right? It's tough to learn new skills. But I think the whole entire environment that we are doing right now, right, we are in right now, is that we really need to upgrade our skills and our competencies, right? To be actually multi-skilled, right? In your words, it's learning agility, right? How to learn more, right? To become more useful and more adaptable to change. I think I would say that the old mindsets and the habit of old actually is one of the biggest challenges to actually changing, right? I've got a message from Harish. I mean, he's talking about, recognizing the times as they are now. There are many assumptions that we have over the years that no longer valid, right? So the question he has for you guys is that, what are 2 or 3 things you would want to relook, going into the future, right? I mean, it's not an easy question to answer. I know Harish always asks tough questions, right? But I think, give us a little bit of what is in your mind, right, to bring your organizations, or how should the startup bring their organizations to the next level?
Maybe I will share a bit based on my current experience. So like we are doing digital marketing, like e-commerce and all that. So we are serving about 20 industry. So I share with maybe the attendees here what is the challenge I'm facing. It's a very weird one. So we have 20 industry, right? The irony is some of our clients are striving in this industry, in this situation. They are doing so well, and they require us to work 30 to 50% harder to support them. Okay. On the other hand, we have those industry that they are suffering and struggling in this situation, and they require us to work 30 to 50% to save them. So none of them are paying us extra. Basically, both feel, yeah. So I'm in that kind of situation, and so while this is happening to us from the external side, one thing that's happening is also like our operations, right? So like we are likely to be fully remote until end of the year at least. So the decision has been made already. Yeah, I'm actually sitting alone in my office now talking to you all. Every day I got new responsibility, need to water my plants somehow. My staff say must keep it alive before they come back. So anyway, while I'm looking at all these things, I think our internal operation is something that really I want to relook. Yep, we are now able to do fully remote, but that actually creates new opportunity and new threat as well. Like I noticed that now, recently there's a lot of job postings. They say, okay to work remotely and all that. So in that sense, suddenly the way we operate and the way our value proposition and all that, I think really got to relook it. So 2 things that really is keeping me awake now at night. One is really our operations, how to really enhance it further, the efficiency and everything. The other one is really the value proposition to the clients. Another thing I experienced is, like now a lot of our clients in the various industry, right, they are much more open to technology adoption. So we have that e-store 2.0 that we wanted to launch in January next year. It has been brought forward to August, like now. So suddenly everybody is very, very receptive to all this. And again, we are being pushed to move faster and to accelerate. So these are all the various things that's in my head. Yeah. So I think operations, the acceleration as well as value proposition, these are really the few things that we are really looking now. Yeah.
Jade?
Now, coming to the assumptions part, the way we do it is part of the learning agility methodology. So we don't take it as an assumption. We try to look at as a validation. So, for example, we are in a situation, and either we make some assumptions and move on, or we try to validate it by doing it. And if things go wrong, we learn from it. If things go right, we learn that, okay, what is working, what is not working, and we continue to progress. So in our methodology, we call validation instead of assumptions, because that's the way life has become now. So it's better to learn to handle all kind of ambiguities. So it's part of ambiguity that you are in an ambiguous situation where it has never happened to you before, and you have to still do it. How you can do it? You do it, you do a mistake. Either you do a mistake and you learn from it, or you succeed in doing it. And in between, if you have any information required, you just do a validation by doing it. So that's what we have been doing, and it is working for us. But it requires a lot of training to everyone. Everyone has to buy in and try to do it, and it's not easy, but you have to continuously do training to your staff, and their mindset has to change, and they have to not worry about doing a mistake. So we train our employees saying that as long as you don't repeat a mistake, please go ahead and do it. Don't worry about it. But once you have learned something, you have done a mistake, don't repeat it. Be intelligent enough not to repeat the same mistake. And it has been working for us.
Well, that's interesting for what you guys contribute. I mean, looking at one of our companies, right, we are rethinking on whether do we really need a space to be rented after all. You know, the question is right now we are all working from virtual, and in the past we have actually relied on a lot of technology anyway, right? So they have been having, you know, in old days Skype conferences with the developers in different countries, right? We have subscribed to a virtual PABX. So literally, you know, the calls get to us and they get bounced via data to us wherever we are in the world, as if we are just in Singapore. So those are things are actually accelerating. But for many organizations, as you mentioned, Adrian, they really have to look at their internal operations, because many of them are still very physical, right? So they have to rethink on how to go virtual. Just to give you an example, we were talking to one organization and they have to move virtual. By moving virtual, right, the whole entire infrastructure has to be upgraded, right? Because they have a lot of customer service all around, right? So in order for people to go home to work, first of all, they have to make sure that their data is locked down, right? Because it's now distributed all over. So there are issues surrounding this. So there are some organizations who can move offline from online to offline, or vice versa, faster than others, right? So I think interestingly enough, I think COVID certainly gives us. Someone was telling me that, you know, COVID actually accelerated change for some organizations by a few years, right? Because of COVID, immediately they say, in 2 years we will do that. They have to do it immediately, you know, right?
Yeah.
Like infrastructure management and things like that, right?
Yeah.
We got another question. Sorry, go ahead.
Just to share with you, like, you know, one of our clients is in the co-working space, and exactly what you said, right? In the last 2 months, there's a surge in the inquiries for small enterprise to actually take on the co-working space rather than having their own physical office.
Right.
And one of the least popular services that they offered was rental of meeting room, and now it's their most popular services, because many companies don't want their own office to become a cluster. So they rather book a meeting room at the co-working space and do the stuff there. So yeah, you're seeing all these changes. It's mind-blogging actually.
Yeah, it's interesting because in Block 71, we always have co-working space anyway, you know, and with ACE has offered free working space in the ideation center, right? As long as people know there's no event there, it's empty anyway, right? Why don't you guys go and make use of it? And they have a pretty fast internet because I broadcast live from there before, right? So every time I broadcast, the internet works. Benjamin has an interesting question, right? Benjamin asked that, assumptions and experiments are cool during normal times. However, times of survival, right? What are the real evidence-based return on investment levers for business and startup today, right? I guess everybody's on survival mode, right? Benjamin is asking whether if we were to actually do new stuff, right, would it be practical to do it at this particular point in time? What do you guys think?
I think for my side, it's a bit more direct and easier because we are in digital marketing, right? So everything can be tracked and can be measured. So every online purchase that happens on the e-store and all that, we literally will know the cost per transaction, right? So I know maybe it costs $250 to get a conversion for this particular product and so on. So it's very trackable and measurable. So that allows my client to justify the investment to their management and all that. So mine is a bit more direct, I guess. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Before you answer, Jade, I mean, I have experience in one of our investee company that actually invested in a new technology during the COVID, right? Their view is that, they want to extend their cash, and basically what they did was that everybody tightened the belt, right? Instead of firing everybody. And with the capacity, they actually look at things that are on their to-do list in the future, right? That means they speed up their development of future functionalities. And it turned out to be quite interesting because those functionalities in fact was what the market really wanted. So I guess they were lucky from that perspective, right? That now that they present their technology, right, people are receptive to it. So I think there's no right and wrong answer, right, to that. Jade, what do you think? I mean, do you guys do many technologies, or do you guys invest in any technologies during the downtime?
Okay, to me, if I look at, right, it is, I can draw a lot of parallels which have been there for many decades, actually. To take example of Kodak, for example, right? One of the best known brands in the world, and then they could not adopt the changes. They could not innovate or reinvent themselves, and they are literally in trouble today. Now, today also, if you look at, the situations could be different, but the basic fundamental for every founder or a CEO is same, that they have to look at the signals of change proactively and plan for it, invest resources in resources, and achieve what they want to achieve, and to make sure their organization continues to grow. And there are always, I find, based on my experience, there are always signals well in advance if we really sensing it. And if we plan for it in advance, then we will not be in a situation where we have to react at the last minute. So I give an example. I was supposed to be in US for almost a month in US office in February. In January, I sensed that situation could go worse, and I canceled my flight. I did not go to US in the whole month of February, and I was sitting in Singapore to look at the processes, that what are the gaps in our digitalized processes, and how we can fill up those gaps, that if situation worsens, then we will be able to continue to serve our employees as well as our customers without any disruption. So that effort of 2 months, I'm sitting here working with my technical team and making sure the back-end processes are taken care of. It has helped a lot when the circuit breaker kicked in. And if I would not have done that, I would have been in a deep trouble when the circuit breaker started.
Right.
So this is just an example. Maybe I'm lucky to sense it, but invariably my experience is that there are signals. As a founder and CEOs, we have to sense it, and we have to have that gut feel to go for it and prepare the plan and steer the organization in the right direction.
couple of months back, we have a speaker, right? And that's Saurav. Saurav actually mentioned that, you know, in circuit breaker, their company did much better. So actually, on the survey standpoint, 20% of companies actually do better, and fortunately, he's one of those 20%. And for those organizations that are doing well, I think they are also planning for the future. I've heard from some of them that they are actually planning to hire, and because situations are getting tough, right? They are planning to actually increase their intake of good people, right, during this opportunity. So for every down cycle, for every ups, they are also down. For every down, they are also up. But I think more importantly, right, I think for most of us who are individuals or organization, we tend to look at a lot internal, right, during the little bit of downtime, right, to number one, survive through the period, and number two, actually when we survive through the period, how do we thrive when at the other end of it? I think that is really not so much from Benjamin's perspective justification, right, but really the gut feel of most of us who are entrepreneurs or looking at a growth mindset. Vinod has a question for you. Vinod asks, right, employees are key to success in an organization, and they are our colleagues and now experiencing different stress due to changes in work environment and in addition to changes in direction of the organization. How are you keeping your employees and colleagues motivated in this virtual challenging times and to still achieve results? This is really very true, right? Things are completely stressed out. How do we keep our colleagues actually, you know, motivated to continue?
I think what is working for us, I can share my experience, is to keep them motivated. They have to have a heart in it, and that comes from the engagement. So if you're able to engage with your employees, then motivating them becomes much easier.
Yeah.
And to engage, you can use various creative ways. And for us, what worked, as I earlier mentioned, that during circuit breaker, we were still raising funds for migrant workers and COVID-19 test kits. And when all employees are involved in raising funds, they're engaged. We are communicating for something which is meaningful. And there's a common purpose for everyone. And everyone felt good what they were achieving. And eventually that resulted in a better productivity at whatever they were doing.
Wow.
So my experience has been that if you're able to engage with them and make them move for a common purpose, their motivation comes very handy and it becomes much easier.
Any thoughts, Adrian?
So for us, I think when we actually bring a team member on board, right, you know, actually there's two things I always observe, right? One is like, do you really enjoy and very passionate about what you do? Second thing is, are you very good at it, right? So most of the time, right, you realize that a lot of the team members, right, who usually they're very good at it, they totally don't mind spending 20% of their time improving themselves and all that. So when you get the right kind of team members, right, to actually join the organization, you can be assured that part is in a way assured lah. Then actually, after that is really my job, right, to ensure that whatever they are doing and all that, we can create a value proposition for that for our clients. But you know, if you generally ask, right, I never done a survey for this, but if you ask a typical employee, you say, hey, would you want to work 20% more to get the same salary, or maybe take a 20% pay cut? Many of them will tell you, Adrian, I'm willing to do more because I love what I do, I take pride, but try not to cut my salaries and my bills to pay and all that. So generally, I think when this whole situation started, I make it very clear to my team that I say, okay, you know, I will do my very best up to my last stand, right? I'm the last, so I will suffer the most or everything first. But I think I will not be doing any kind of pay adjustment, but we may all need to work very hard and harder and innovate and all that. So that statement was made to my entire company, but not big lah, about 35 to 40 of us only. So it's a small organization. So I guess that's how I approach the whole this whole crisis here. But I want to stress again, I think we haven't faced the real thing. Yeah, the last quarter of this year is the real deal. Whatever now is being cushioned by all the assistance. I honestly think so. So I think since the April, we've been preparing for the last quarter, right? Yeah, but you know, in terms of cash flow, maybe my last point is I think in terms of cash flow and all that, we are planning at least until end of next year. That's what I'm thinking. So my COVID period is until end of next year. That's what I'm been planning all this while. Yeah.
That's wise. I think summarizing from the both of you, I think what we talked about is actually communication, right? We need to keep the guys updated on what's happening to the company and what's happening in the situation. And the other one is really upgrading and innovation, right? During this period. Harish has something to share. He was saying that in his company, Red Hat, they do no team calls on Fridays, right? That means basically people just call up, talk to the customers, and so on. And also they have a day off every quarter for the guys to do what they would want to do, which is basically, innovation and motivation, I guess. Maybe we have time for, we are coming to 1 o'clock, so I also don't want to hold everybody up. I think one question that I really want to ask you guys, right, and it's really, what advice do you have to founders, right, that are having very difficult time and completely stressed out? I mean, what do you guys do to de-stress yourself, right? I mean, it should not be everyday work and solve problems, right? I mean, what do you guys do to really de-stress? It's a more fun question than anything else.
Sure. So I'll take the question first. I think one thing I try to ensure still for my whole team and myself is, yeah, we are at home and all that. Now there's you don't know whether you're at home or you're working, right? That kind of stuff. So I still remind my team that, okay, once we cross the office hours as much as possible, let's not work, right? I think that spirit is there. And I top to down, bottoms to up, we try to ensure that. But, maybe my humble suggestion to all the entrepreneurs out there is like, what it takes to manage all these difficult times, right? I think the word is really grit, right? G-R-I-T, right? I think in the darkest hours, we really need to have grit to get through all this. And I think we really need to draw strength from somewhere, right? Sometimes entrepreneurs also very weak, right? During the darkest hours. I have all my darkest hours. So I think that, sometimes we ask ourselves, right, why are we doing all this? Is it out of fear or is it out of wanting to protect something? And I realized that, if we actually draw strength out of fear, right, a lot of times we cannot go very far. So in my case, I think what I do is I realize that I have something to protect here, something that my team and ourselves have built together. Several of our employees has been with us for more than 10 years. And for that to happen in such era is very hard to come by. So I think there's something that we wanted to protect here. And I think this motivation to protect what we have is often stronger than to fight that fear. Yeah. So if you ask me, it's like 20% fear and 80% to protect this team, this little family that we have. Yeah. But my kind of mindset maybe could work for a very small entity like 35, 40 people, right? Yeah. When you get to 100, I think it's totally a different ball game. So I can only say for myself. Yeah. Sure.
Thanks. How are you, Jade? What do you do to de-stress?
Few points I would like to highlight and perhaps like to help all entrepreneurs and founders. I think everything starts from the founder and the attitude of the founder, right? And the whole organization is driven based on what is running in, or what is the attitude of the founder. I read one book called Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. It was published in 1998. It is less than 100 pages book, and I would recommend every founder to read it. And it helped me a lot in last 2 decades. I read it almost 20 years ago. It teaches you how to change your attitude towards a change, how to try to sense a signal that things are going to change and you have to prepare yourself. You have to move quickly. You have to act quickly. So I think that book has helped me a lot and highly recommended. Very quick to read. You can read it in few hours, but it's a great book. Very easy to read. It changes your mindset, and therefore whole organization mindset may change. Second thing which has helped me a lot based on my experience is a SWOT analysis, which is the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Whenever I look at my SWOT analysis of my own organization, I get a new perspective. Suddenly I find that I have something to add in opportunities. Suddenly I find that my weakness is no more a weakness. And it gives a new energy, new enthusiasm, right? It suddenly gives new options, right? And that positive enthusiasm and the energy beats any negatives which is running in my mind or in my body, right? So that something has helped me a lot, not as a person, but as a business planning as well, because once you look at the SWOT and you get new ideas, you know, you have a conviction about something and you move forward, right? Number three, which has helped me a lot, by talking to the customers, because invariably the opportunities are given by the customer. Sometimes you don't know what opportunities are there with the customer, but when you talk to them, they tell you, they give you the opportunities, which perhaps did not come in your mind. Sometimes they are thinking of something and they share with you, and that creates a new opportunity in your mind, right? So talking to customer has helped me a lot. Fourth thing which can help a lot is by having a mentor. Because when you talk to someone else, person may give a new perspective as an outsider. Sometimes person gives some option they generally throw out of their head, but sometimes some pointers could help you a lot. So having a mentor or having someone you can bounce the ideas or somebody can give you a new perspective helps us a lot in these kind of difficult times. So these are the few things which have helped me a lot, proven for me at least, and I hope it works for others as well.
So Chala, you can see, right? This is the aura by Jade stronger than mine by 1.5 decades. The aura.
No, it's not that. All of us have different perspective in life. You know, I think you add a different dynamic. Jade add a different dynamic. I add a different dynamic to the whole entire situation. One of the reasons why I volunteered to set up Technopreneur SIG is also because I wanted to create a network for people to come to, right? So in tough times, right? You guys are we are not alone in it. It's everybody, right? So if we could come out with a platform that we can sort of look at people to network, people to get mentors, people to talk about the issues, right? I think that's where the value of SIG or the value of a society or value of an association comes into play, you know. I think in the whole idea of this is actually we are not alone, right? Whatever that we are facing, somebody else could be facing it, or they could have already faced it before, right? And I think the whole idea for me to really invite you guys is invite all our speakers is that all of us share a different perspective, and no one perspective is 100% correct or 100% wrong. I mean, it's something that I think it adds value to the community, and I think that's what we want to do. So it's just past 1 o'clock. I really appreciate you guys pouring your heart and sharing, you know, what you guys have gone through or experienced over the last decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, you know. And I really appreciate you guys taking time over this lunch. I would love to buy you guys pizza, but unfortunately, you know, COVID doesn't allow us to do that. But it does save me some money, you know.
Right. We will charge you with compounded interest.
Yes. 2 pizza. Watch the weight, though. So yeah, thanks again, Jade and Adrian. I really appreciate you guys spending time, and all of us who have asked questions or participated. I hope you guys learn something from this, and I think this session is recorded, and I think in time SCS will put it up in our resources for you guys to listen again, maybe at 1.5 speed or whatever. Thank you very much, everybody. Right, we'll catch up. Have a nice week ahead. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.